Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 164 of the Rouge Rugby podcast. My name is Derek Brissett, and my typical co-host, Stu Hardy, is still on the run from the various local authorities for giving the Arrows game plan to the New England Free Jacks. So I am once again joined by the king of all MLR sabermetrics and numbers of every kind, Mr. James Deeley. James, welcome back. 2 in a row.
Thank you. Yeah, back to back for me. I'll keep doing this as long as Stuart's on the run.
Oh, it sounds like it might be a while, so it's pretty.
Maybe he's been planning this for a while. He's got some bunker somewhere in Algonquin or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. I think he's got the bunker in Algonquin. The only thing he has is a tablet with the Rugby Network app on it, so he can still probably keep up with games. I think he's still doing that. I occasionally see a tweet or two from him, so I guess he's watching them somewhere in that bunker. So James, we typically we start with the Arrows on here, but every now and then there seems to be a bigger story than the Toronto Arrows that feels like it really needs to lead off. So I'm going to start this by asking you a question. And since you are the resident MLR stats expert, in the history of the league, how many coaches have been injected for fighting each other in the middle of the pitch?
You know what? You've caught me completely by surprise here. I thought the big news was Michael Smith re-signing in San Diego, but I mean, I don't know how to answer this.
Oh yeah, that is Michael Smith did resign, and I am I mean, if the lead out of all the teams that needed to get better at the trade and signing deadline, I'm not sure San Diego was one of them, but
no, I don't think so. No,
Smith's unreal. Have him back.
Anyway, the actual biggest news to answer your question is I'm 99.9% sure the answer is 0. I don't think I've ever seen it across any professional rugby that I've seen.
I've seen a couple pro de deux clips being tossed.
Oh yeah,
at it now. So there's
I've never seen it in the Premiership. I don't think I've ever seen it in the Championship. Like wild, like a brawl.
Definitely one of the most entertaining clips of the weekend.
Yes.
Whether you think that's good or bad,
as neither a New York fan or a Houston fan, it's entertaining.
I was gonna say, I'm not gonna lie, I had a smile on my face watching it. It was So all right, to get anybody up to speed, if you haven't heard, the Houston Sabercats were in New York to battle the Ironworkers, and right before the hydration break, New York earns a penalty at the breakdown. Sam Windsor tries to go quick, but CC Mahoney basically bear hugs him and prevents him from advancing. And for that action, he is given a yellow card for not being back 10. Windsor then sets up, puts the ball on the tee, slots a conversion. Slots a penalty, and that puts the Ironworkers up 8-0 going into the hydration break. Now, for everybody watching this game at home, we got to watch a couple Arctic cooler commercials, and then it cut back to like 55 people on the field. Which just looked kind of chaotic, and then
it looked like someone had won the MLR Shield, like friends and family, everyone had come on, although slightly less celebratory in nature.
Everybody was on. Ben Bonasso's like running around in a suit.
I've got a comment here about Ben Bonasso in his lovely shirt running around.
He looked beautiful. Great. Yeah, then he's okay. But we're getting distracted by Ben Bonasso's attire, but that's fine.
Yeah.
So essentially, what is shown on the video is that Houston Sabercats coach Pote Human is irate on the sidelines and makes his way onto the pitch, where he is then confronted by New York Ironworkers performance coach.
S&C, yeah.
S&C. I've seen a couple different titles for his thing being floated around there. But regardless, Ironworkers coach Ollie Richardson to which they kind of initially they bump into each other. There's maybe a little bit of shoving, and then Human has been watching far too much Will Smith or Dana White's Slap League, and just an open-handed slap across the face of Richard.
Like slow motion, like winds this thing up and just goes for it.
Yeah, exactly. And connects on it. And at that time, a couple other New York staff or executives come in and try to pull Richardson away, to which Richardson does like a spin move to get away from
the referee. I'm pretty sure that was
the referee and like a couple other people trying to restrain him.
I think it was Mike Lash. Like, genuinely.
Yeah, one of them was, and then there was another person there too.
Yeah.
Which I'm not sure who it was, but
there's someone in like an MLR shirt.
Yeah, exactly. And he spins, runs back at Human, and throws like a right hook that also actually lands. And I was actually kind of impressed with the athleticism of the spin move into the right.
Yeah, and that was like a run up. I didn't know it actually connected because it's kind of behind someone else's head. But it
looked like it connected to me. Human reacts, so
yeah, it was a big one.
Yeah, it was like, well, he had a running start. It's like a slow Superman punch. Pote Human, Ollie Richardson come to blows in the middle of the field. As you mentioned, well-dressed Ben Bonasso somehow ends up escorting Richardson off the field on one side, behind like the try zone on one side.
Presumably he's out. I don't know why he's out, but he's not playing. Clearly, he's not kitted up, and he's just, everyone's running by now. Like the whole 15 Houston players are on there. Yeah. Everyone is on that.
All of them are there. And like, I mean, I don't know how you wouldn't all be there. But anyway, all of them are there. Eventually, they get separated. Human and Richardson are both obviously kicked out of the game. And there's some funny clips of Human trying to take his like radio off, which is just added to some of the flair of the whole situation.
But this is all we know at this time. We are. First of all, I'm surprised that the broadcast actually showed a replay of it and didn't just go, we've had some afters.
If you are the broadcaster, you have to show that. This is probably the most shared MLR clip of the year right now.
You would think, yes. Yeah. I mean,
and you can decide if that's good or bad. But it was like the highest.
No such thing as bad publicity, I suppose. Exactly. But I retweeted this clip with a little comment being like, "What the actual fuck?"
That's the correct reaction, though.
Yeah. And the video before my retweet had something like 120,000 views last time I checked.
Yeah, no, it was that. It was, I think I checked last night, and at one point it was the highest rated like post on the Rugby Union subreddit, like the full.
Oh, not even MLR
Union one. I've been checking back now. There's the MLR Reddit now has memes of almost in like the Will Smith, Chris Rock type style meme of Human slapping Richardson. So, I mean, I'm sure this is going to become a thing.
Yeah, I've just checked it again. It's at 151,000 views.
Yeah. The try of the week was also scored in this game, by the way, and there's no way that clip has anywhere near the amount of views that this is.
And it was quite a good try, actually, with signing Monate Akue, I think that's how you pronounce it, with a beautiful offload in the build-up. But that's no one's talking about that.
Yeah, it was a great try. And Andrew Coe, because we got to shout out the Canadians, he scored a try. Basically the same play as how he scored against Toronto. That extends his try-scoring streak to 3 games now, so that's cool. No one cares because, once again, 2 coaches fought each other in the middle of the field.
Yeah.
So
what was I saying? I was saying, yeah, I'm surprised they showed the clip, first of all. And then, we're not given any context. We don't know why this happened. We just kind of see a clip of the Houston head coach, Pote Human, walking on, screaming at this guy.
Yeah.
It looks like, I thought the first time I watched it, he's screaming at someone else, and the New York coach is like, hey, come on, calm down, go away. It's actually screaming at that guy. Yeah. And then he goes for the wind-up slap, and then it all just goes nuclear. Like, it's crazy. And we didn't know why. We're just like, oh, this happened while you were gone. Bye.
Yeah, well, that's kind of the the weird thing, right, is that it's obviously during the hydration break. So like I said, we were looking at some Arctic coolers while this was happening. And like, yeah, it cuts back and then they kind of, the broadcast shows what happened because you have to, because it's part of the game. And I want to know why 2 coaches just got kicked out. But they show it, but like you said, they don't really show what started it. They just show the 2 coaches coming together and the fight. I think Doug Coyle on his write-up after the game, so djcoilerugby.com, like cites Grant Cole in his article and saying that it seems like that Richardson may have been talking or yelling or somehow engaged with the Houston Sabercat players.
Like in it from various pieces of information across the MLR Twitter, it sounds like Richardson was in the Houston huddle.
Yeah, which is,
and as soon as I heard that, I was like, okay, so it's kind of Jamie Cudmore Rugby World Cup against France, kind of, he's just being something cheeky, and then it went crazy.
Yeah, or
no, I don't think so. Like, I've learned some more. I've got someone sent me a picture from a Facebook group. I think it's like a South African MLR fan group. So
big
Houston fans,
box guys,
yeah. And there's a comment here from someone called Dean Muir. The Houston captain.
Yeah, I believe I've heard of him.
This was someone being kind of echoing what you were saying, Derek, about he was upset about the yellow card, which is what a lot of people thought. Which I'm not sure how you could be. It was, maybe not a yellow card, but it was cynical. It was a penalty. And Dean Muir says that had nothing to do with the yellow card. Their S&C coach came over to our huddle at the 20-minute water break and tried to use force to remove Heineke Meyer, from the field while he was talking to the team and bringing water on. It was all cleared up. It was all cleared up post-match in the locker room. So there's that, I suppose. So the end of it. Well, I don't know whether these 2 guys saw and was like, that was a bit stupid of us both. We probably
shouldn't have fought each other.
Probably shouldn't have done that, yeah. But it sounds like Heineke Meyer, like the director of rugby for Houston, is, doing Razzie Erasmus things as a water boy. And Ollie Richardson, the S&C coach, maybe had an issue with that. I'm not sure there's anything in the rules to say you can't do that.
Yeah, is there anything? I mean, what's the difference between talking to him directly and using a radio to tell the guy to somebody else to say something?
Yeah, unless
there's
Ollie Richardson.
Yeah, I don't know.
Ollie Richardson might have thought he was still Heineke was still suspended.
Maybe. Well, that's the other thing, right? Houston had so Heineke Meyer got it suspended a couple of weeks ago for, I guess, what did we determine, possibly tampering of some sort. So he gets suspended, and then 2 weeks later, 2 weeks later, Human gets into a fight. That's that's a wild times for the Houston management staff right now.
Certainly is. They're doing okay. They got the win. They got a bonus point win. Not that anyone really remembers the final score.
No one cares. No one cares about the rest of this game. It's just, it's wild. I guess right now, so if that's what happened, that's even wilder. If he went to if Richardson went, because that part's definitely not on the broadcast, but you'd have to imagine that there is film of that somewhere.
You would have to imagine that, yeah. And no, this is, I will say, this is Dean Muir. It might not even be the Dean Muir, I think it is, saying, he's Houston's captain. He might be a little bit biased, but this is the bestest explanation I have as to what exactly started things. And I don't understand why this New York coach would walk over to the Houston huddle and start pushing one of their staff around at all.
Yeah, see, that doesn't make see, if that happens, I get why Human would be upset.
Yes,
but then
if that is the case, out of context, the clip we've seen,
the clip is just like, oh man, 2 coaches were pissed and they just.
Well, it makes Human look worse, in my opinion. Like he he
The
looks
way,
like he's
yeah,
he looks like he starts the physical side of things, even if
yeah.
the rumors are all that the New York guy started the entire thing.
It's
Who knows?
it's weird though because it's like there's no like. I feel like everything that has kind of come out about what may have started it seems to be from the Sabercat perspective, but there's
It
hasn't
it
really been like a New York
That's true, and I'm not sure. Well,
out there, at least nothing that I have seen at this point in time.
to
Um,
be honest, if this is correct, I'm not sure New York would want to.
no, but that's what I mean, right? Like it seems like Houston, like players don't usually comment on Facebook stuff or
No,
Twitter
no. I
things.
feel like the MLR is maybe possibly a bit unique in that because it's still kind of small fry.
Yeah,
But
but even in that though, like players don't usually, especially if it's going to be like, hey, like guys are, I mean, they're going to be suspended. You have to suspend them. So it's like there's obviously going to be some like discipline and stuff, but it seems like it's even like Doug Coyle's article, it's like it's presenting it from the like it's from the Sabercat point of view. Um,
yeah, I think
it's
they've kind of
yeah,
grabbed the narrative here.
yeah,
But
they seem to be like really pushing like, hey, like Richardson started this, right? Like does that mean like they should have like it's does that necessarily mean that they should have fought in the middle of the field? Probably not.
no.
Probably not. I think
Yeah, so
like
it
yeah,
seems like, a lot of cases I can see why the team wouldn't comment. It'd be like, listen, there's ongoing investigation kind of thing. We'll see what happens.
that's what the
But
MLR's statement basically said.
yeah, so we have, what are we recording on Monday night, and we have had a statement from MLR saying, they're aware of an incident. I don't know how they couldn't be, and they are investigating. Like, it's
Yeah,
aware of an incident. It's probably the most watched MLR clip ever.
exactly. And I mean, um, beware, like aware of an and see that the way they worded that though, because it's like if that to me suggests that they're really looking into like what the broadcast didn't show
Hmm.
to try to figure out what
Yes.
actually set that off um because the broadcast doesn't really show what set it off, we just get the fun part. Although I'm sure what actually started that probably would be quite interesting as well.
It does quite, in the MLR's comment, or statement does say an incident that took place on the sideline, which it wasn't.
Yeah, I wonder, well I mean I wonder if I'm sure I feel like on the sideline is just referring to this wasn't
Mhm.
players.
Yeah, I think you're
Or
probably
whatever.
right. I'm just reading into that a bit too much. But
Um,
it says, upon completion of the investigation, the league will take any necessary action in line with our competition and behavior regulations.
yeah,
Basically,
yeah.
stick with
So,
us, bear with us. And I
well,
do
I think
commend, I was saying, I feel like in the past we wouldn't have got a statement like that. You
no,
know,
no way. Yeah,
in the Gilly situation where everyone was speculating for months and we never got any statement. They've actually issued a statement saying, "Hey, we're looking into it.
yeah,
Bear with us." And I think that is a step in the right direction to credit the league
yeah,
because I mean, what are they going to do? Of course.
yeah. Well, like I think that's kind of the interesting thing too, because like you obviously, regardless of if you think this is entertaining or fun or not, and I mean, it's going to be, it's like there's it seems to be various reactions of people thinking it's like kind of funny or fun in a way, or but then others that just think it's embarrassing for the league to see two coaches doing this. Um, but regardless of what your kind of your stance on that is um human beings kind of like watching people fight for some reason. So it's going to be a
Some
huge
kind of caveman in us.
yeah, exactly. So it's going to be a very widely shared clip. But at the same time, I think from the leak statement, it's just like, once all the dust kind of settles on the right at the, you got to figure out how to punish two coaches that just fought each other. Right. Which is because even if you're kind of like, oh, like if you want to use, like, as you said, James, use that argument of like there's no such thing as bad publicity. Right. And,
Yeah, and I mean,
right. There's
I've
none.
seen this was talked about on like a New Zealand rugby show. I've seen it, the
Yeah.
rugby guy on Instagram and Twitter. He picked up on it.
Especially in the rugby community, this is getting shared everywhere. I'm not sure if it's picked up by like general sports stuff, to be honest, but like nobody's sharing clips of the tries, though, is kind of my point. It's one of those.
No, it is detracting from the quality of rugby that we
yeah,
we get
but
to enjoy.
Like to circle back to the point though, it's like I think the league kind of put out that statement, but it's also like this is probably the first real like incident in a game in what are we in year 6 of the league, like incident in a game where you're gonna have to suspend coaches for like, or you're gonna have to suspend any participant for something that's not just like, maybe against the laws, but generally accepted as part of a rugby game, like an illegal hit or like an illegal
like
hit.
A lot of the red cards we've had is like except like
it's
I messed up.
Exactly.
And there's not really any bad blood between the players.
Exactly.
Like not like this. The closest I can think of is when Lucas Rumble got punched last year by Fernanda Schultz, and that wasn't even caught. That was a sighting after the game.
After the game, and like I think Quatchard and Keith kind of reacted to that, like on the pitch.
Yeah, and that's fairly kind of
it's just happened after.
It's handbags as part of a game, like it's a
But that's the thing. It's like even if punches can get thrown between the players, but I guess like the wrench in this is that the two coaches came off the sidelines during a water break, fought each other in the middle of the field. Right. So
there's two elements of, well, it wasn't during a game. It was a pause, and it wasn't players.
And it's not players. Players are the ones that broke it up. Actually, Sidney Mahoney, who's supposed to be in the sin bin, is the guy that broke it up.
You're absolutely right. Yeah.
Which is even more
rumored to start the thing, but not at all. No, it's
and then so you have that, but it's like I think right now, like the league has to figure out for really the first time how you're going to as you said, like the Gilchrist thing, that's something that happened behind closed doors. This might be, I can't remember anything else, so this might be the first real, I guess we'll use their terminology, sideline incident out of the context of a game, or a normal context of a game, incident that everybody saw and the league has to figure out a punishment for. So it'll be, I mean, by the time this episode is out, perhaps we know the answer to this question, but I don't know. I think it'll be very interesting to see what the actual punishment for both Human and Richardson is, or even if there's further punishments like fines or anything dealt to the Sabercats or Ironworkers.
Yeah, I've seen like point deduction penalties, and I don't think it's going to go that far.
But point deduction's a little far.
We'll see.
Yeah, point deduction's a little far. But
yeah, they set a precedent a couple of weeks ago of suspending coaches, coaching staff, and that kind of thing.
With the Sabercats again.
With the Sabercats, kind of coincidentally.
Yeah.
That was something I hadn't heard anything about. It's something we didn't see until it came up on the disciplinary wire.
Yeah, because you have to explain why the GM's not.
Yeah. This is something everybody saw. So yeah, we will see.
Man, I kind of wish the Sabercats played the Ironworkers again.
that would be
the drama. That
would be good. Yeah.
Yeah, just for the drama of it. I suppose that's maybe a MLR final. I guess they could do that again, but yeah, like I don't know. Sometimes sports can be a little bit more fun with some hate. So I don't necessarily hate that the coaches fought each other. I don't think that I'm not in the camp that thinks it's necessarily like embarrassing for the league, because
no,
fights happen in every sports. Even coaches kind of get into it sometimes. Maybe not throwing punches. That's a little bit more rare, but
it adds something to the. It's a narrative and a chapter in the rivalry that I didn't think existed.
Exactly,
between New York and Houston.
See, but that's kind of the thing, though. It's like I kind of feel like we're in year 6 of the league, and I mean, I don't really. Is there like a really truly great rivalry in the league right now? That's like
Seattle, San Diego, I think.
Yeah, but is Seattle, San Diego like do you feel like those two teams like really hate each other, or do they just happen to both be good and play in the playoffs? Like,
I suppose
really...
not. I mean, the fans. I think the
fans...
rivalry strong among the fans, but
yeah.
I don't think there's the.
But I think like New York and New England kind of have the fans hate each other thing, right?
Yeah, but
Because
that's
New York, New
not
England.
necessarily because
But
of
I don't
the
think the
rugby teams.
players.
That's
Yeah, exactly. I
yeah.
don't know if that's there with the players, and I don't think. I think like a lot of the like I don't like to me like because I'm like I don't know like I grew up loving hockey, and to me like the epitome of rivalry is the Detroit Red Wings and Colorado Avalanche in the late 90s, early 2000s, in which they were the two best teams in the Western Conference, and every game that they played would be like 6-5 and have 14 fights. Right. And it was like
That's 13 more than this rugby game.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, and watching those games, like you got the sense that it was like there's actual hate. Like, you know what I mean? And like I'm not sure if even with like San Diego and Seattle is probably the closest answer to this question, but I'm not even sure if there's like passionate hate.
Yeah, I think there might be more kind of respect, and that might only be
Yeah.
among the guys that were actually, that were there in 2018, 2019 for the or not 2019 especially for the final. I think it's just kind of reminded me of more of rivalries to do with rugby on the international stage, is like Le Crunch or the Calcutta Cup, or anyone against England.
Yeah. I think the thing is it's like a lot of so I'll go back to like the Detroit Colorado thing. It's like I think sometimes we try to force rivalries a little bit based on like geography or something, like being like like whatever, like Dallas versus Houston or something, right? Because of the teams in Texas. Even though like their games don't necessarily always seem super heated.
Look, sorry, that being said, I think sorry to interrupt. The MLR was trying like a Texas Cup thing, and I think the rivalry between Houston and Austin was getting there.
Austin was good, yeah.
It was getting there. Unfortunately, we don't have that anymore, but maybe one day.
I think like in a way too, like I think like for Toronto, like I think we tried like Toronto Seattle just because there's a lot of Canadians and stuff.
Yeah.
I think we were kind of looking at like maybe Toronto New England this year again because of the Canadian thing, but then the first game ended up being an absolute blowout, right? And like, but I think like the thing is like sometimes it's like you try to force them like based on geography or based on unrelated sports history, like say like Atlanta NOLA or like because Atlanta NOLA is not a rivalry like that. It's literally like what 8-0 in favor of Atlanta right now.
Yeah, it's very one-sided. Yeah.
That's one team kicking the other team's ass. But I think like the thing that's like with like you try to force it, but I think like good rivalries have like an incident that sparks it, right? Which for like Detroit, Colorado was Chris Draper, or it was Chris Draper being hit by Claude Lemieux into the boards, which broke his jaw. Before Colorado went on to win their first Stanley Cup, and it's like two teams that the year before were in different conferences
because Colorado moved from
Quebec.
Yeah,
the year before they were from, so it's not like they were familiar with each other in that year. It's just it took one hit for
spark.
them. Right. And then there was a couple brawls the next year and they traded Stanley Cups and Western Conference titles for the next couple
years. On the subject of one hit, it might have done that hit.
Exactly. But that's what I mean though. It's like this is the first I'm like, oh, like I'm not saying that like sometimes like you need something to happen to kind of ignite it. And it's weird because like obviously they're in different conferences, so they're not going to be playing each other again this year unless it's in the MLR final. But I'm kind of like, if this was two Eastern Conference teams or two Western Conference teams, I would immediately be like, when's the next time they play?
Absolutely. Yeah. I'd circle that on my calendar being like, that is a must watch.
Yeah. Even though like the rest of this game wasn't overly heated either, but it's like,
well, that's because the incident wasn't among the players.
Yeah, exactly. Which is maybe that's also part of it, but like I don't know. I think the league, in a way, the league could use a little bit more hate. Is all I'm kind of trying to say. we could stand to hate each other a little bit more.
I will say congratulations to Houston for beating New York for the first time ever.
Yeah. Also, well, exactly. No one cares, James. There was a coach.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, the coach's fault. Oh, the only we need to do the hockeyfights.com puts up the polls as to like who won a fight or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
That's what we need to do with this one. Is like we can like let people decide who won between Human and Richardson here. But that being said, though, as much as I weirdly kind of enjoyed it, it's funny to me.
I did too. I don't think there's obviously professionalism's out the door there, but as a fan, I love it. As a fan, I love it.
If MLR had like a Drive to Survive documentary, this would be the episode I'm looking forward to the most.
Yeah.
I don't know how we couldn't start the show without talking about Pote Human versus Ollie Richardson, adding to the great legacy that is New York State held fights. But I think unless you have anything else to add to it, we can maybe move on to what typically.
I don't think so.
Okay, so I don't know how you transition from coaches.
Yeah,
everything
apparently there was some rugby played.
Yeah, apparently there's actual rugby games to be talked about. So the Toronto Arrows welcomed the Seattle Seawolves to York Lions Stadium. It was a bit of an overcast day, a little chilly. And I think the big question going into this game was essentially just going to be, what's the response from the Arrows going to be like after being on the wrong end of the most lopsided loss in MLR history? So, and to be honest, I think the response was actually pretty good. I think I agree. The end result is that Seattle wins 36-27, but to kind of get there, I think especially given what happened last week, I think there's definitely a lot more positives to take away from it. So the Arrows actually, thanks to two incredible tries from Ross Brody, who
I said last week was an absolute, he's an absolute stud this year. He's fantastic.
It's so good this year. But yeah, so two tries from Ross Brody helped kind of cancel out a really hot start from Seattle. Io Sepple scored in like the first 3 minutes after a great break from Creel. And the Arrows took a 20-14 lead into halftime on one of the best teams in the Western Conference.
I think they scored the second Brody try was just before halftime. I think they were 14-13 down, and then scored Brody try under the posts for the automatic 7.
Yeah, off of lovely trademark Mitch Eady, just pick up the ball and nobody's guarding the side of rucks.
He did that a few times in this game. And
he's done that all year. Like, I don't know.
It highlights how much the Arrows, how much better the Arrows are with him in the lineup. I know he's missed a couple from injuries.
It does. It also highlights how much other MLR teams should maybe watch a little bit more film because he keeps doing this.
Well, maybe or don't.
It's fine if they don't. Doing it. Yeah, exactly. I don't know what I'm saying. I need to delete that part of the episode. But yeah, so that was a great play. That second half too also kind of ended because the Arrows had a great goal line stand that right before that Brody try. So that was what felt like going into halftime, a pretty big like momentum swing.
Yeah, and I can't even remember if this was I think this was in the first half as well. Deshaun Bowen was pretty much in. He'd gone 99% of the way in for a try.
That was in the first half, yeah.
And I think it was James Malcolm made a great little stop to just dislodge the ball from his hand in the last minute.
Unreal.
No, that goes down. The ball goes down 27-14 at halftime, or 25-14 at halftime. That's
game of inches.
Well, that would have been two points in the standings for Toronto. Yeah. I want to just put that out there. That's painful.
I know. Yeah, that's. I mean, there was a couple. Toronto had a couple try-saving tackles too. So
that's true. That's true.
Maybe it could have been a little. I guess it depends on how you want to look at that. Unfortunately, though, despite that goal line stand, Brody's second try, Seattle comes out of the gate in the second half, and Reichert Hadding scores a try, and it kind of shifts the momentum back to Seattle. Hadding would later get another try. And then because of course it happens in Toronto. And this might be my Leaf fan thing creeping through, because I have watched far too many years of Leafs hockey where the guy from Toronto will score, the guy, the former Leaf will score, the player from, from Toronto or Southern Ontario is going to score.
The guy who played 3 games for the Leafs and wasn't particularly great will come in and have a hat trick for whoever he's playing for now. Like, cursed.
Yeah.
Cursed.
Yeah. The only thing that was missing, really, when I saw Ronan Foley, who was the Arrows MVP last year, come in his second game of the year. Nice to have him back from his injury, but it's his second game of the year.
Yeah,
of course he's going to score.
Hurt his arm in the season opener for Seattle 10 weeks ago, and back for this.
And he puts the final nail in the coffin. At the very least, at least the guy that cuts the grass at York Lions Stadium didn't suit up for Seattle and score a try too. So the Arrows still have that in the Leafs. I don't even know if you have to cut the grass. It's turf. I guess you probably don't even cut that.
The guy that paints the lines.
Yeah. Thank you. I have no other analogy to go with. So either way, so there's that's kind of the scoring. Alatimu added 4 conversions and a penalty. O'Leary added a conversion and 2 penalties. The Arrows, to their credit, kept battling through this game and actually ended up with a penalty try at the end of the game.
Right at the death, which also resulted in a yellow card for Seattle, which is a bit of a what
are you going to do with the yellow card?
It was full time, which is a bit of a shame. A couple of minutes there, get a restart in. Never know, but them's the breaks.
Or a couple seconds later. All right, so that's, I guess, a bit of the quick rundown on the game. James, any more detailed thoughts on the Arrows 36-27 loss to the Seattle Seawolves?
Yeah, well, a phrase I've heard a couple of times when talking about Toronto's performance is even a dead cat bounces back. And I think that it's something I've never heard before, and I love it. And I think that does apply. It was a much better performance against, a team that was undefeated 3 weeks ago. They are, one of the monsters of the Western Conference, and we went toe to toe with them for pretty much a full 80 minutes, I think. There was Toronto scored their 200th try ever. They were on 199 going into this game, or 198, I think. So either one of the Brody tries was their 200th.
At the very least, for you there, it's like either way you can be like Ross Brody got the 200th try in a
yeah. On a less positive note, they are now at an all-time negative points difference, which they went into the season having about something like 185 plus. So they're at -6 now. We will see.
I mean, in a weird way, I feel like that kind of tracks, though, considering they've missed the playoffs in 2021, 22, and are now.
Yeah, 2021 was a big dent in it. 2022 was okay. They actually finished positive, 8-8 record, but positive points difference. But now they are on their longest ever losing streak of 6 games. And it's the joint longest of 2023 with the Dallas Jackals, who Toronto lost to end their losing streak. Although their losing streak is a bit more because it goes back to last year, but it is still a much better performance from the Arrows. I'm not. Maybe it's because it's following last week. I'm not particularly disheartened by that. They've taken New York right to the edge. They've taken Seattle right to the edge. They've scored 27 points in 3 games now. It would be nice if we could pick up a few more try bonus points or losing bonus points, but scoring with some kind of consistency is a positive. It didn't feel to me like they were blowing as many chances in the 22 as previous weeks. I don't know if that's because they didn't get to the 22 as much.
They definitely didn't as you said, they definitely didn't blow a lot of chances in the 22.
Yeah.
But again, though, I'm
Ball
kind of like
ball retention, ball in hand seemed much sturdier. It seemed
sturdier.
much
I think
better.
I think the other end of that argument, though, if saying like they didn't blow a lot of chances in the 22, is I'm not sure how many chances they really had in the 22.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
this is also something we talked about last week, where if you look at the two Brody tries, they're long range tries,
So
right?
again, like I was joking last week, the errors are deadliest from inside their own half.
They are. Like even going back to the first try of the year they scored against Atlanta, which was a scrum in their own half that O'Leary kicked over
Yeah.
the top. Richard
For a
Richardson.
great finish from
Oh,
Richardson,
Green
yeah.
regathered and then Richardson finished it. But yeah, that was like a 60-meter tryout. Ross Brody scored, hit both of his tries, where obviously that one he kind of had the chip kick over that he gathered himself, kind of with the race with the Seattle defender there, and it kind of bounced a little bit, but he was able to ground the ball.
It does seem like they thrive in broken play. Like they don't seem
Yeah,
to kind of convert a lot when it's, within 5 meters, within 10 meters, just pick and goes. I'm not sure if there's anything in that or not.
yeah, because I think this penalty try is, I mean, I know it technically won't go down as this, but this is like what, the second line out maul that they've pushed over for a try all year.
Yeah, there's not
I
been
haven't finished
many.
up the other one.
And to be fair, I will say it today, the set piece, the line out looked far better than it has in a few weeks, which might, give them the confidence to try a
I,
set piece, sorry, a rolling maul, because
they
they
were,
they attempted it against Dallas for the
yeah,
win,
I
and that
think they
cost
were.
them.
Sorry, I think they were also contesting
Hmm.
it's a lot more too. And I wonder if that's like, I think because like Shea Carey was going up a lot, and so was Mason Flesh, but I feel like um I think Wadden actually also had like a line out steal. Like I think this is maybe like, obviously like the injuries are causing guys to get like shuffled around, and I mean a guy like Corey Thomas has been out of the lineup for a significant
For a
amount.
while, yeah.
Um and Micaiah Torrance Reed obviously too, right? So I think like having Shea Carey back now, having Shea Carey in the lineup, I think is adding just a little bit of an extra option for them, which is maybe helping in that regard a little bit.
Yeah, I think maybe he's kind of selling because he was playing last week, but he just arrived. I'm not sure he kind of had got up to speed, as it were. But
It is, I do think, interesting to kind of look at that, like most of, because I think even that one play that Bowen nearly scored on was kind of a broken play too.
it was, and
And
that's set up by Brody
again,
again. Like,
Brody's been
he's everywhere.
real
Like,
this year. Like as much as the Arrows have maybe struggled, like Brody's performance has been incredible.
The combo of Brody and Malcolm
Yeah.
when healthy, unbelievable. Brody obviously was
Yeah.
was was out for a lot of last year. We were down to, the commentary man was scrum half for us for a bit
Yeah.
because we were so shallow in that position. We had 4 injuries to scrum halves, but that combo when they're clicking, they are superb. It's just Malcolm's been out for a couple of weeks and Brody's had to do it himself, and he has.
Yeah, he's been doing very well too, because like, yeah, he's doing a good job of just like, facilitating the attack, getting the ball kind of where it needs to
And
go.
spotting gaps.
Yeah, spotting
Excellent.
gaps. His kicking has been really good.
Mhm. He
Too.
was trying a lot of that this week, little kind of dinks over the top and everything. Not even,
Yeah,
not even just his usual kind of box kicking. He was lots of kind of stabs through, which I
what's
think
weird,
we haven't seen in a while.
the Arrows have been having success with those like little kicks over the
Yeah,
top, though, right? Like that's
yeah.
how. We mentioned that Richardson try against Atlanta. One of Bowen's try in his hat trick game was a chip over the top. Obviously, Brody had one here too. And it's like for a team that doesn't score a lot of tries, they seem to get a lot of tries by, instead of going through a defense, going over them.
If it works, why would you
Yeah.
stop?
So,
Like this,
yeah,
it
exactly.
worked again today.
Yeah, it did. It did work again today.
Not today. Not today.
Or,
Sunday.
yeah, whatever. Yeah, we all. I knew what you meant. I knew what you meant. It's the time zones. It's today somewhere,
Yeah.
or yesterday somewhere. However that works. Um, but yeah, like I think another player to me too that I think has been the more I watch him, the more I'm kind of just like he might be one of the most underrated players in the league is Fabian Goodall. Um,
Yeah. So there was a bit of a juggling the starting lineup. Goodall was on the bench initially when they released the lineup, but Goodall started at center, and I think Noel Reid didn't play in the end. So Goodall was on from the start with the MLR's best-selling jersey. And you're right, yeah, it's something that I've commented to a few people on is the center combination, like I was saying with Brody and Malcolm, the center combination of Goodall and Tassie when he's fit
yeah,
is a problem.
yeah,
And Goodall is just such a strong runner, like unbelievable on the crash ball. He's decent in defense, like he's really, really stepping up. I know he's also missed some time because he hasn't on this team, but it's noticeable when he's in the lineup.
yeah, for sure. Like I think when he gets the ball in hand, he's making ground. He's like running over guys, breaking tackles. In defense, he looks like there's like there's a play in the game where while Kobe Faust was in the bin, the Arrows were defending that yellow card where he was kind of covering the outside center and the winger at the same time. And there's a couple plays where he has to like shift across the field and he runs like such a solid like defensive line to shift across that he actually like gets to the winger to shut down the play. And like the amount of ground that he has to cover to make this play is impressive. And he's been making like a handful of plays like that. And I think it's also one of those things too where I think watching this game, I think especially given the stats that the Arrows posted too, that Mitch Richardson led the team in tackles.
He did, yeah.
Is like Seattle was attacking that center channel like the whole game, and they ultimately did break through on it a couple of times. But like I think like both Richardson and Goodall probably like I think kind of handled themselves pretty well.
It wasn't the dam didn't burst at any point like it did last week. You
Yeah.
know, there was a what was it, maybe a 10-minute passage in the second half where they kind of the momentum shifted and went to Seattle and Hatton got his brace. But apart from that, it wasn't like that. They held firm for the most part.
Yeah. I think they did, and it's like it's it's kind of an unusual stat to see Mitch Richardson so high up on tackles, but like he kind of had to do it because they kept attacking there. But and I think Goodall's also like, especially during that 10-minute stretch where they had to defend with down the fullback in Kobe Faust or whatever, and I think that was probably one of the best stretches of the entire game for the Arrows, not conceding a single point while they were down a player, and then ultimately also having the ball in Seattle's half too. So I mean, I think ultimately it's again one of those games where which it feels a lot better than last week because it kind of feels a little bit closer to New York, and maybe not in some of the games that we were talking about last week, like the Atlanta game or the Dallas game. I'm not sure if you can look at this and be like, like you should have won it. Maybe you can because you're leading at halftime.
I think you could have won it, but not really a should have. Not like
like the opportunity may have been there, but like like it doesn't necessarily feel like the Dallas game where you're like, man, you just have to connect on one. You just have to connect on one line out and you win this game. Kind of.
It's not like that. It's not a gimme. Like you said, it's not a gimme. It's not like that. It was competitive and they were in it.
Yeah, or even
they were in it and it could have gone.
Where it's like if you show up for the first 65 minutes, you could have won this game.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
But ultimately, I think like this loss, following up the game against the Free Jacks, I think ultimately it kind of does feel a little bit better. I think the Arrows can kind of be, despite losing the game, can be happy with the way that they bounce back. And I think part of it too is I think, and this happened in the Free Jacks game as well, but I think they can be proud of the fact that despite maybe some lopsided scores, they're still like competing for 80 minutes. Last week against the Free Jacks, they got down in the Free Jacks territory. I think the game ended with a Mitch Richardson knock on. But this time they were able to cash in on their late scoring opportunity, and ultimately like Seattle pulled too far away to make that worth a bonus point or anything. But like I think that seems like a bit of a positive way to at least end the game, and hopefully that can create some momentum.
Yeah, it did seem like they had a more robust game plan for this one. It held up past the first 5 minutes, unlike last week. Shane O'Leary was great from the tee, which is worth mentioning as well. The opportunities he's had were relatively straight, but from fairly long distance, and I think he went 2 for 2, 2 for 3. So I think that's worth mentioning too. In previous games, they would have gone for the corner on those kicks, and I think they recognized that it's Seattle.
Yeah,
they go to famously they've got the seawall defense. Like we should just take these points, and they did.
Well, I think even the other side of that too is like Seattle attempting a couple penalties at certain points of the game too, just showing at least maybe a little bit of respect for the Arrows defense, or at least how they were playing. I mean, Alatimu missed one, which looked like it may have been a bit of a costly miss, but then ended up not being that. But like there was Seattle, I think, in where they chose to go for points instead of kicking to the corner, kind of showed a little bit of like, oh, like we need to keep the scoreboard ticking over too, because
they had a rolling maul as well, which was just absolutely textbook. It was like you can't do anything about that.
Yeah, exactly. And yet they still opted for to kick a goal a couple times. I know it feels a little bit better, like you said, though. Maybe it's just because of the game they're coming off of. Maybe it's a little expectation adjustment or something. But I don't know. The vibes after the game seem to be a little bit higher amongst the team, anyways.
Yeah, and I think they will be better. The vibes, I mean, they will be better again this week.
Yeah,
they know they can do this, and we were saying last week we know they can do this. They've shown it earlier in the season.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, they got to play Nolan next week, who is one of the copious amounts of 4 and 5 teams in the Eastern Conference. Yeah, and 9 games into the season, one team above 500. Way to go, Eastern Conference.
Monsters in the West over there, yeah. But again, that's something you said talking about Jekyll and Hyde teams last week.
Oh man.
It's there. It depends, depending which, if the Arrows get out and start strong,
yeah,
Nola could capitulate like Toronto did last week. We never know.
Yeah, like I think, but I think ultimately too, it's like that's part. Like I kind of liked our Jekyll and Hyde talk last week based on Rumball's comments post Free Jacks game, and even Rumball didn't necessarily say that again this week, but he kind of alluded to the fact that the game slipped away from them in the final 20 minutes there. And it's again one of those things where it's like you maybe need to put in like the full 80-minute effort too, or not effort, but like the full 80-minute performance, because like there's stretches of this game where the team looks really good and then they turn back into Jekyll or they turn back into Jekyll, and then Seattle scores a couple tries and pulls away at the end of the game. And
but they do come back again.
And then they come back, and it's it's weird. It's like they play great in like patches and then kind of fade back away. And then yeah, so it's like they need to put together a full game as I guess as Hyde. You probably want them to be the monster part of this, right? So
Yeah, well, I guess it depends. The monster to the fans is not great, but yeah, you want them to scare the shit out of people.
Yeah, exactly, right? So I think overall, like given where they are in the season, I don't know. I feel like I feel much better this week than I did last week, despite the fact that they still lost.
Yeah, no, so do I. Like I felt much better after the New York game, despite them still lost.
Yeah. Yeah.
After Chicago game, I was ecstatic, but that's because they won.
Yeah, me too. You know what though? We can talk about an Arrows team that did win.
Yeah, we could.
Yeah, if you want to transition to that. So for the second week in a row, the Arrows Senior Academy, aka Top Gun, or unofficially known as Top Gun, because that's what we've decided on Rouge Rugby that we're going to call the Arrows Academy. Whether that's a sanctioned term by Bill Webb or not, it doesn't really matter. So Top Gun battled the Atlantic Selects in a little Coast to Coast Cup tune-up game, and it was a pretty entertaining game. Once again, last week against Quebec, very entertaining. This one, entertaining for a bit of different reasons. A couple more highlight reel type tries in this one, a little bit fancier. So it's quick. I'll give you everybody the quick rundown, and then we can break down this game. The Academy got off to a roaring start. They went up 12-0 early, thanks to tries from Kevin O and Ethan Voskamp. The Atlantic Selects, though, would respond before the halftime break as Sam Miller and Thomas Getz both crossed the line. And with that combined with Jimmy Clark being perfect off the tee, gave the Atlantic Selects a 14-12 lead at halftime. Getz then extended that lead with his second try of the game to go up 21-12. And at this point, the Arrow Academy maybe kind of took over the game, starting with Rion White, who had his first of two insane runs, highlight reel tries.
Just shrugging them off.
Yeah, like you need to send like 4 or 5 guys to tackle this dude, and because one-on-one just making guys on the Atlantic Selects look very goofy. As like weaved his way through that, scampered in for like about it was over a 50-meter try, and so that was unreal. The Arrows then followed that up with a try from Jeff Young. Rion White with his second highlight reel try
on the other wing.
Other wing, yeah. Just again, I don't know. I don't think there is a single player on the Atlantic Selects that Rion White did not step in this game.
Yeah.
That makes sense. No, I don't think so, because we watched him go through the whole team.
Yeah.
It was like watching Bo Jackson in Tecmo Bowl. It's just like
yeah, it was wild. It was an excellent performance.
Yeah. And then Caleb Hickey and Evan Waugh capped off the game with a couple other tries. James Webb had 6 conversions. He was 6 for 7 on the day. From the Atlantic Select side, Jimmy Clark, he added another penalty. So he was 3 for 3 on conversions, 1 for 1 on the penalty. During the game, there was a yellow card to Sif Sanad, which is when Jeff Young scored his try. So the Arrows were able to capitalize on that. The only other thing that I have to really shout out in my just the little breakdown of what happened in this game is prior to the game, the Atlantic Selects did not release a roster that included player numbers. So as I was watching the game, when I was tweeting about it, I was just I was just writing number 17 scored a try instead of Sam Miller scored a try. So I reached out to the Atlantic Selects to just before we recorded this podcast to just get the numbers associated with everybody, because I mean these guys work hard and they deserve to be shouted out for their hard work. And so especially the try scorers in this game, and I got this list, and the list is a fairly normal looking list. It's player number, first name, last name, right? So number 1 was Alex Forrest. He was also the captain, and it follows that same formula all the way down to number 18, which just says Big Red, and that is so Big Red was number 18, and Big Red, the reserve prop, had an interception that ultimately resulted in Jimmy Clark being able to take a penalty. So
yes, he did.
So Big Red, shout out to Big Red getting big turnover, getting some points on the board. Everybody else has their real name except number 18 is Big Red. So I feel like
what if it is his name?
Sorry? That is his name. It's probably his legal name. His legal name. There's a long-standing rugby tradition in the Red family, and Big is the latest product out of that. And so brilliant intercept try, and
it was a very good intercept try.
Or not an intercept try, but it was a very good intercept.
Very good intercept, yeah.
Ultimately ended in a penalty. So shout out Big Red and the Atlantic Selects. And also all the arrows. Rayon White, I think, was probably the star of this one. But any thoughts, James?
No, I don't think so. It was like again, it was an entertaining game. I'm glad I trekked up to York University early to check it out. I did arrive just before half time, so missed the first half where it seemed to be a bit more of a closer contest, and kind of arrived for when it kind of got away from the Atlantic Selects. But they put on a good contest. The Arrows, had some trouble. It was an entertaining game in front of a healthy crowd for an academy game.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought it I thought it was a really entertaining game. I mean, like I said, it's like a couple of tries that were scored. I mean, we've mentioned Rayon White just kind of dancing through everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Even like Getz had a couple really nice tries for the Atlantic Selects. The forward pack, I think one of the big difference makers in this game, to me, the Arrows pack.
The Arrows, the scrum was dominant. Yeah.
Just steamrolled the Atlantic Selects on multiple occasions. One of the changes that came down late in the game, Hank Stevenson was ruled out, so they kind of shifted the lineup around. So you ended up with Tom Artman, who's also part of that high performance academy, kind of like that one step level up a little bit. And he was in the engine room, and like that looked like it made a big difference. But also he had line out take after line out take after line out take in this game. Very clean game from him all around. So probably another player for Arrows fans to get excited about, as we kind of keep building here. I think but I think like ultimately, like what this game kind of shows, Coast to Coast Cup's probably going to be very entertaining. It looks like both games so far have been really fun to watch, and obviously it's a team that's going to be playing in the Coast to Coast Cup. So I don't know, man. I think it's shaping up to look like it's going to be a pretty entertaining tournament, right? So I think the academy is going to have a couple more games, and I mean, there's I know like the weather maybe wasn't the best before this game against Seattle, but like these I'll just say it again, like these games are super fun and
free
and definitely if you're coming down for the MLR game, like come for like an extra 2 hours and just kind of watch the next level, because it is super entertaining. One other game I did kind of want to briefly touch on before we get into the MLR, out in the BC Premier League, UBC faced off with UVic in the semifinal, the BC Premier League, and UBC absolutely throttled UVic. 67-21 is the final score. Ooh. Yeah, no, tough one. So UBC now will advance to the final. They're going to play Maryloma in the final. Maryloma beat the UBC Old Boy Ravens 27-14, so that one was a little bit tighter. And kind of just, I don't know, like the reason I am kind of bringing this up is we've got a little bit of a draft announcement during the last week or two from the MLR, at least confirming dates.
Yes, we did. I'd forgotten all about that.
Yeah, exactly, right. And it's one of those things that's like these between like the Arrows Academy, Atlantic Selects, UBC, like I think that UBC UVic, all collegiate rugby or university rugby across Canada, it's going to be kind of a really interesting thing to watch as we kind of build up to the draft, I think, because even though we kind of spent a little bit of time talking about the Arrows and the positivity that we can maybe pull from another loss, at the end of the day, they're 1-8, which means you should probably start watching a lot more university rugby because the Arrows maybe are on track right now to get the first overall pick, or at the very least the top 3 pick in the draft.
It's looking at the very least the third pick.
Yeah. So even though we are pulling some positives from this, from the loss, and there is the reality that they are 1-8. So it might be time to start kind of looking at a handful of these like UBC, UVic guys, and maybe that the Coast to Coast Cup will probably have a few university players that are going to be draft eligible.
Do you know if that's going to be broadcast anywhere, the Coast to Coast Cup?
They'll probably. I don't, but I imagine they streamed it on YouTube, I think, last year.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, I believe that's what they did last
I hope so.
year. And then the year before, too, when BC did the Coastal Cup, when they had all those regional teams, they streamed that on YouTube, too.
Oh, hopefully then.
And I mean, also, this game was streamed on YouTube as well. So, like, if you missed this game, I believe it's on the Toronto Arrows YouTube page. So, like, if you missed this game, you can go back and check it out. Rayon White's tries are definitely worth checking.
Yeah. I don't know if anyone put together a highlight pack from this game, but you should check them out. They are
the highlight packs.
Tasty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the highlight pack. But so I think like it's going to be worth checking out, and I think if you're an Arrows fan, man, it's going to be worth keeping an eye on. I mean, I'm not like the academy guys maybe don't have to worry about being drafted, but like UBC, UVic, and some of these teams that will be playing soon, going to have a lot of university eligible guys. So if you're starting to kind of look towards next year, if you're an Arrows fan, it's like that draft, that first round pick. Hopefully it'll be maybe it'll be number 1, maybe it'll be 2 or 3, but like it's looking like it's going to be real high. So it's going to be something to start keeping an eye on.
And we already have Owen Rutten from 2022's draft is still playing in the Arrows. I think he played yesterday. So it works.
Rutten's probably been the best Arrows draft pick so far.
Probably a few of them they've had that haven't signed or stuff like that.
Injury issues. James O'Neill has been really good, but obviously he was drafted by LA.
Yes. I think he is. I think James O'Neill is the best player who was drafted for the Arrows. That wasn't drafted by LA.
Currently plays
by Toronto.
Drafted, yeah. But yeah, so I mean, I don't know. It's going to be a thing to definitely keep an eye on, I think, as we go forward. So another eventful week in Major League Rugby as a whole. So quick breakdown of the other 4 games, because we already did the only thing that matters from Houston's 34-27 victory over New York. I don't even think we mentioned the score last time, so I'm just going to get that in there a little.
There was a rugby game there?
Yeah, it's like
I thought it was in the Octagon.
Yeah, I know, right? It's like we should do that. It should be halftime entertainment. That would be outstanding. That's what we should do. It's at the MLR final in Chicago. The coaches that aren't involved have to do like a Royal Rumble during halftime. Or at the very least, send the mascots there. Let Archie beat up a couple.
A mascot cage fight would be great.
Yeah, exactly. I want to see Archie beat up an orca. Like that would be great. Or whatever a free jack is. Let Archie just destroy that. either way, on to actual rugby, I guess. Um, Matt Heaton had a nice little line break that led to Rowita Biddle, putting Rugby ATL out to an early 13-0 lead. And that would be the end of that, as the New England Free Jacks would storm back 23 unanswered points. They beat Rugby ATL 23-13.
I saw a lot of fans at halftime, a lot of New England fans complaining that the
losing
Free
their
Jacks.
minds.
I was like, you put 50 points on us by halftime last week.
I know,
like,
yeah,
calm down.
It's like, if there's one thing, it's like the city of Boston is hilarious because they've had too many good sport teams that they don't know how to lose.
They don't know how to lose,
or they don't know how to be calm. Like they can't. They're like they don't understand how to actually react. They react to things in a proper emotional mindset.
The Boston has a brand. Thankfully, their rugby team is full of Canadians. And they do know how to react.
Yeah, exactly.
And as proven by your 23 unanswered points you just mentioned.
Exactly. And part of that 23 unanswered points, Spencer Jones picking up his first try in Free Jack colors as well. Gorgeous little crossfield kick to set that up too.
Mm-hmm.
On to the nation's capital. Bit of an upset. We'll call this an upset considering what we said about the Eastern Conference versus Western Conference last week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Graydon Bowd had a pretty solid game. 3 for 4 on conversions, 1 for 1 on penalties, and also kind of earned a penalty try as a pass to Danny Tusitala was intentionally knocked on. So I'll give him a little bit of points for that. Kyle Bailey also made his DC debut, but he got a yellow card, so maybe not that exciting of a debut. But either way, at the end of the day, DC wins 36-22. Lance Williams kind of balled out for Utah though in the loss, so that was
certainly did. Yeah, I think there was a Penny Lasaka try and a Mika Cruze try, I think, and they're both in my fantasy team. So
there we go. The MLR staff fantasy team though, not too concerned about the final score for Utah, but
we'll see.
The important guys got on the board.
We were against the league leading Rock and Roll this week. We'll see how that goes. But I was expecting this game between DC and Utah to be nearly 100 points combined. Both teams kind of have a brand, which is what's defense. And I was a bit surprised that it was only kind of 50, 58 points in this game.
Yeah. Speaking of what's defense.
Yes.
San Diego made a trip down to Dallas without half their team. Unlike the Arrows, though, I think this was by choice. So that meant Sears Duru got a rare start, but also no Ma Nanu because that would have just been fun. But either way, San Diego maybe by halftime kind of regretting that little lineup strategy. As the best team in the Western Conference was deadlock 1919 with the Dallas Jackals, who seem
best team in the league.
Best team in the league, yeah. We're deadlocked with the Dallas Jackals, who do seem to be constantly improving. However, at halftime, unfortunately, the San Diego Legion remembered who they are and stormed out, started lighting up the scoreboard. And at the end of the game, the Jackals kind of came back and were in a losing bonus point territory. And then Tion Lutz ruined that. Literally like within seconds ruined that. Dallas just scored and then Tion Lutz immediately scored off the restart. So Dallas walks away and they still get the try bonus point. Jason Higgins, pretty good game from him. Again, key in setting up a couple tries. Also saved a try too. Really nice play to keep to hold up the ball as Dallas was crossing over the line.
Yeah, Dallas did have an interesting tactic of injuring a San Diego Legion player so that Nate Augsburger came on early, which is an interesting tactic. He's probably been the best player in MLR this season.
Yeah.
So I don't think they would play. I think he was at 21, so I think he was supposed to be coming on as backup scrum half later in the game, but that's not how it worked. And I think that was last week. I can't remember. He did some crazy spin through like Dallas's defense still.
Yeah.
And still made a couple of line breaks. Like, do not play Nate or make Nate Augsburger play.
Yeah, Augsburger might be like early halfway season MVP.
I
Like,
don't know who else.
he's been unreal for them. You could probably pick a lot of guys off the San Diego back line.
Yeah, they had a diminished lineup in this game. I don't think there was no Blair Cowan. I don't think there was. Well, Nate Augsburger was on the bench, like we said. Dan Pryor was captain, his first captaincy. So I mean, good for him.
That's cool, and he played really well in this game too.
He did. He was the top tackler on San Diego. Um, he he did have a good. He usually does, but he had a good performance.
Yeah, he really kind of San Diego's whole back line was actually really good too. Tamalau, their 8 got a try and stuff.
Mhm.
Like really nice.
I will say, just to end it, is Tian Lutz with that try at the death. That was Dallas's 1,000th point conceded.
Oh, already? Oh, man.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Do you want to take a guess how many points they've scored?
300.
And 49.
340. Okay.
349.
I'll take it.
As 1,000.
You know what? I didn't factor in this game into that.
So you would have been right otherwise. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it was. On to another East versus West clash saw the NOLA Gold travel up to the Windy City to battle the Chicago Bulls, or the Chicago Hounds, dressed like the Chicago Bulls from the 90s. Unfortunately, they could not channel that Jordan Pippen era of, constantly winning championships and getting really cool documentaries called The Last Dance made about them. But
it's the first dance.
The first day. Yeah, exactly. So unfortunately, despite being dressed like one of the greatest teams in sports history, the Chicago Hounds could not convert that into talent and ability. And NOLA shot out to a 24-0 lead and never really looked back.
Yeah, it does feel like NOLA played a half and then coasted for the rest of it.
Yeah. They ultimately win 37-24. Rare kind of game with no Canadians really in it. Eric Howard not in the lineup. Neither was Lindsey Stevens. Eric Howard, we didn't mention though last week. Got his 50th cap. So he becomes, adds his name to the ever-growing list of Canadians to reach 50 caps. So that's really cool. Howard was one of his earlier caps is that he was the captain of NOLA for the first Arrows home games. The first pro game in Canada was actually captained by 2 Canadians, which is a cool little.
It's a nice little stat. Yeah, I like that.
So that's so there we go. And actually, because of that, Eric Howard, I think, was also one of the first players I did a post-match interview with because he was in that game. So there's my little Eric Howard memories of his first 50 caps.
I'm sure he remembers it.
Oh, I'm sure he remembers it fondly. Yeah, it's the best. He told me it's actually the biggest moment of his career. And
I believe it.
Yeah, no, me too. Exactly. And so that kind of no Canadians. So why are we still talking about this game? Cool jerseys for Chicago though. And then that's it. That about sums it up. Last game was the coach fight, so that covers everything. Anything that sticks out to you from this week? The coaches fighting each other, because we talked
other than the obvious. No, I don't think so. Nothing. It was fairly tame, other than the coach fight. After that, it all seemed fairly. I had Chicago pinned to win, at least in my Super Root picks. I can't remember what I said last week on here, because I really can't get a gauge of what NOLA are.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're a monster, sometimes they're a duck. Like, I don't understand, and I'm hoping for the duck next week.
Yeah, me too.
And on the other side of things, I can't understand why Chicago, with the plethora of talent that they have, I can't understand why they can't get a result. I don't understand it.
It genuinely is one of, like, I feel like it's one of the more bizarre things in the season this year, because the Chicago Hounds were basically really benefited from the Giltinis and Gilgronis being kicked
Yeah,
out.
the core is the Gil teams. Sam Harris
Yeah.
is or was the Gilgronis head coach. He brought a load of his boys over, and it seems like that's why I want to say, well, it's definitely not a talent issue. It must be a chemistry issue. But how? It's the it's
It's
the
a
same
lot of
team.
guys from the same teams, yeah. And it's um yeah, it's so like bizarre to me. Like even like okay, so this like just reading this is the Chicago Hounds backline in this game. It was Michael Baska, Luke Carty, Julian Dominguez, Billy Meeks, Bryce Campbell, Mark O'Keefe, and Chris Mattina.
Absolute
Like,
monsters, all of them.
yeah, like so you have Meeks and O'Keefe were all MLR centers last year. And then like a Dominguez, I think, was the one of the
I
wingers on
think
the team.
Meeks is back to back back of the year.
Back of the year. Um, like that whole back line should just scream like like 5 tries a game.
hmm
And for whatever reason, it's just not
I
clicking at
don't
all.
understand.
And even
Basker
like,
has just come from Pro D2. He was with Utah a couple of years ago, but
yeah,
he's been playing in France.
he's a
I
really good
don't.
player.
He's
Yeah.
fantastic. I don't get it.
And even like coming off the bench too, like they had JP Eloff as a sub. Like even like the guys like I don't know,
It's
like it's kind of
baffling.
perplexing. I guess it's I mean, if anything, it goes to show you that there's more to assembling a team than just putting together
hmm
a collection of
Even Toronto beat them.
yeah. Yeah, I mean that's really what you could Sam Malcolm beat them.
Yeah,
But, yeah.
Sam Malcolm carried the rest of the team. Yeah.
But it's like I kind of wonder like also too like other things like what was Billy Meeks doing for like the first couple weeks or whatever?
So I
All
know
that
what
weird
he was
training
doing.
camp stuff that like he was just
He
there.
he had issues. Him and Julian Dominguez had visa issues.
Oh, it's always the
So they're resolved now, but they couldn't
yeah.
play the start of the season. Not for any reason, just just one of these things.
But even like yeah, like their pack is also like I mean it's pretty good too. Like it's um
Yeah, I don't.
I just like I don't get it really. Like it seems so it just seems so weird that it's like they're basically built from the two best teams in the league last year. Salary cap issues or whatever it was aside, but
Yeah,
they're
I keep thinking like,
players
okay,
and
well, for the
like
first kind of
what?
half of the season, I was thinking like, okay, well, they'll get it together next week. They'll get it together next week. They'll get it
And yeah,
together
they're
next week.
not. Yeah.
We're 10 weeks in now.
And they're what are they? They're 1-8, right?
They're 1-8. They're the same
Yeah,
as Dallas, same as the Arrows.
yeah. It's yeah, it's so bizarre. But yeah, I mean, goes to show you that there's a lot more to assembling a team, I guess, than just
Yeah,
like I don't know, like talent. It's like you said, it's like talent isn't enough, right? Like it's you got to have chemistry or the work ethic to kind of make things work, and it's
and I don't think,
really not
well,
happening for them right now.
my brain is telling me that it can't be either of those things, but or at least my heart is probably because like they're the same team. The core is from the same team under the same coach,
Yeah,
and yet something's not clicking.
like you said, it's like a team like when they announced their lineup, and you kind of look at the all MLR team. You're like they had 4 guys from it, like just in
Yeah,
the back line, and then like the guys that weren't in that were like Bryce Campbell and JP Eloff, and you're like,
awful.
yeah, terrible. Well, apparently it is awful. So
Apparently, yeah. I remember before the season started thinking, "Oh my God, it's going to be another, walkover. It's going to be a boring season. Giltini's 12-3 or whatever it was, 12-4. They're just
yeah,
going to walk to the Shield." Nope, that's San Diego's job this year, who are not messing around.
no, yeah, apparently,
That's all I had.
yeah, yeah. DC kind of surprised me with their win over Utah though. So I think that's a fascinating development in the Eastern Conference because that shoots, considering nobody in the Eastern Conference can actually win a game, that shoots them up to second in the East.
Without taking anything away from Utah, I feel like they had a couple of shock wins as well. Yeah, they beat the Free Jacks. They beat Houston.
Yeah.
So they had some shocks that I did not expect. Maybe it's just life correcting itself, but
yeah, maybe
DC have improved over last year, and I know they've had some haven't had as many injuries as Toronto, but the injuries they have had seem to be always season ending. From the sound of things, well, Stan South is out, Corey Daniel is out, who was the top tackler in the league last year. There's some big names to lose. I think there's another one I can't quite remember as well, who's out for the season. Oh, Mike DeBoulis, he's out as well.
Yeah. One good thing that they do have going for them though is Jamison Fanana Schultz is not getting suspended constantly this year.
Yes, yeah. Captaincy was ballsy before the season, but it seems to have been paying off.
That's working out well. So I mean,
he's having a great season. Yeah,
something to keep an eye on. Other league news, we did kind of touch on it, but San Diego's re-signed Michael Smith.
Smith, the big news of the weekend.
Yeah, exactly. It's big. It's big to us, man. It's big. He's a former guest on the podcast. Like we have to shout out Michael Smith. He's obviously, he was obviously, taking some time off to go pursue medical school. So it looks like now that we're hitting April, maybe school's over. And Smith is going to be rejoining the San Diego Legion for the rest of the season, which is super fun.
Not a bad
kind
of mid-season addition at all.
Yeah, no, Smith was unreal last year. He was unreal for Canada. Genuinely, like, I feel like one of the Canadian players I'm like really excited about. So happy to see him back. It just kind of adds to, there's a lot of really good Canadian open side flankers in this league.
Yes, very strong at one position.
Yeah, we are good at one position. Obviously, like Atlanta, Matt Heaton played well this week. Rumball plays well every week. Nakai Penny, I don't even think we mentioned it when we were talking about the Euro Seattle game. Nakai Penny was really good.
Yeah, he's really earned his starting position this time. I know he benefited from that early injury to Ronan Foley, but competing, kind of playing alongside Charles Elton, who's absolute stud.
Yeah,
Penny is also really, really kind of shining.
Yeah, it's a hell of a back row in Seattle with Elton, Penny, and Hatting.
Yeah.
It's probably a reason why they were undefeated for as long as they were. I'm happy to see Michael Smith back. I wish him the best of luck as the San Diego Legion attempt to, I want to say, walk away with the Western Conference, but everybody seems to win in the Western Conference. So the Utah Warriors are the team I feel bad for right now because they're 6-3, and they would be second in the East. But they're going to miss the playoffs in the Western Conference if this holds up.
Yeah, and probably like 4 and 5 New York or something is going to get in the East.
Exactly. Yeah, we'll see. The 7-9 New York Ironworkers, when it's all said and done, make the playoffs or something, right?
Yep, might be.
Yeah. Maybe only other real thing is the Miami Sharks have named Jose Pelasina as their head coach.
They have a coach.
They have a coach, yeah. So that's
former Argentina under-20s coach, I think. Don't know much about him, but they have a coach.
Yeah. Well, I brought you on here specifically for your expertise on.
Oh well,
coach.
You kind of caught me off guard here.
I know
his nickname is Coachy.
Oh, well, there you go. Well, hopefully Coochie can
Coachy, not Coochie. Coochie's different.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I'm not sure. Hopefully Mr. Pelasina can deliver some a nice Al Pacino-esque Any Given Sunday speech to his version of the Miami Sharks and rally the troops. And
I suppose we'll find out more about that. They have like a big reveal party later this week, Miami, or like announcement party. I don't know what to call it, but Might find out some more information for next week.
Yeah, that's cool. I actually really like the way the Sharks are kind of going about the.
They're really, really utilizing fan engagement. It's good.
No, good for them. It's definitely something that the league hasn't really had in other team reveals for expansion teams so far this.
Oh, for expansion teams, I thought you were hinting at some other team that had a bit of a disastrous rebrand this year.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's still weird watching them play. But yeah, I just kind of meant the general rollout of new teams that have happened over the first 6 years of MLR. I like what the Sharks are doing a lot more. All right, so if you got nothing else to add for week 9 there or week 10, whatever, ninth game, round 10.
We are week 10 already. Yeah.
Yeah. So we will move on to some predictions for the upcoming week here.
Sure thing. Yeah. There's only 4 games this week.
Only 4 games, and once again, Stu has submitted his picks to me. We'll let you pick as well. Stu still an abysmal below 500. Just
what did I get last week?
Am
I even there?
Pretty good. Stu deleted your answers.
Wow.
Yeah, what a jerk, man. Hiding out in his bunker up in Algonquin Park.
He's not even here to defend himself either.
I know, he's not.
Classic.
Also, I mean, I don't even care that this is the same order. He is really taking his opportunity to not be ridiculed on the show to pick against Toronto. And
again,
he's picked Nola, and I'm not sure I want him back on the show after really what he's done. So I mean, I'm gonna pick Toronto to beat Nola because I'm not a jerk like Stu. So
yeah, I think I might pick Toronto to beat Nola.
Perfect. Exactly, you're not,
because I'm proud of my team, Stuart.
Yeah, exactly. We both are, and I mean, Captain Canucks' enemy is a guy named Mr. Gold. So
oh yeah, you mentioned that last week. Yeah, exactly. Here we go.
So we can't, as I think it's our duty as Canadians to never side with anything related to gold. It's probably also why our money is worth less than other parts of the world. Either way, on to the other games. We have the Seattle Seawolves versus Dallas Jackals. Stu has picked the Seawolves, unsurprisingly.
I think that is a safe bet.
Yeah. I think Seattle. They look pretty good. They look pretty good this week against Toronto too. And then realistically, these are the 2 fun ones this week. New York, New England. We were talking about rivalries earlier. Maybe this will have a little bit of bite to it.
You know, I think New England, New York are really suffering from a similar injury situation to Toronto. Really are, yeah. They're up to about 12 as well. So I think that's just going to be too much for New York.
Yeah. I think like New York's injury situation is tough. I really want to see Andrew Cole continue to extend this try scoring streak, but I think he might have to extend it in a loss, unfortunately. Because I mean, I think New England right now has just proven to be the best team in the Eastern Conference. And
they are, yeah.
Especially with the fact that they're the only team above 500 right now until they get
which is hilarious.
Hilarious, yeah. So I think New England is now, we're halfway through the season. New England is firmly in that you have no reason to pick against them ever.
Mm-hmm.
Just roll New England. Next one, also going to be fun. Who knows who's actually on the bench for this game? But the Houston Sabercats are going to visit the San Diego Legion.
That has got to be the game of the week.
Oh, for sure, it's the game of the week. Yeah,
and it's really, really tough to call. I'm going to stick with San Diego. They are my favorites for the Shield.
Yeah, I think, man, and San Diego's at home in this game too. San Diego's at home, and Houston's not going to have a coach. So, genuinely, like it's
no.
They need, I would recommend. Hopefully, Snapdragon Stadium has their coach facilities a little bit further away from the Legion bench, I guess. We'll see what happens there, but yeah, I think I'm kind of feeling San Diego too. Stu, for the record, also picked New England and San Diego, which seems like the way to go. I don't know. San Diego hasn't really shown me any reason to pick against them. Neither has New York.
Mm-hmm.
It's it is what it is. I think at this point in the season, it feels like we're tracking to a San Diego New England final. So, although the Sabercats may have something to say about that, both conferences playoff races feel really close, but for two completely different reasons.
Yes. Yeah, it feels like, apart from the Free Jacks, nobody wants to play anyone from the West.
Well, yeah, even the Free Jacks are losing the teams from the West, so that's what the 2 is in the 7.
True, yeah.
But yeah, it's so bizarre. Like looking at the East standings, you got 4, 4, and 5. Like, is that not also the weirdest part? Like, if the Arrows string together, like 4 wins in a row, like they're in playoff contention,
which they have done before.
Yeah, like
that's how they made the playoffs in 2019.
It's so bizarre. They are currently only what would that be? 15 points back of a playoff spot.
Considering they're 1 and 8,
1 and 8,
that's absurd.
Yeah, halfway through the season at 1 and 8, they're only 15 points back.
And I think they could beat Old Glory, and they could beat Atlanta. They're not playing New York again.
In the other conference, Chicago is 20 points back of Utah at 6 and 3, who themselves are another 6 points back of a playoff spot. So
it's wild.
That's Seattle at 7 and 2 has the same of 34 points, has the same amount of points as New England, leading this. So yeah, it's absurd. Very bizarre differences. So I think that about does it for this episode. If you enjoyed it, be sure to check out all our episodes on a variety of platforms, whatever you wish. We have a video version of this available on YouTube. Audio is obviously available on basically every podcasting platform that you can think of, especially Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Make sure you give it a nice little 5-star rating, like it, comment on it. Helps everybody, find the podcast and helps us grow the show a little bit. We also have a website, rougerugby.ca, which currently features a whole bunch of Arrows match reports, match previews, and post-match interviews with players, as well as stuff for the academy teams. That's on the Arrows Black Box section of the website. You can also find us across a variety of social media networks, including Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. I'm sure there's a whole bunch that I can't think of that you could probably still find us on there. And all of it is at Rouge Rugby. So make sure you like, subscribe. You get updated on every single update that we'll put out, especially including new episodes. You can find my personal social media is at Brissette the Jet across all those very same social media networks. Stu, who is holed up in his bunker, so maybe send him some messages or something, give him something to do. He's at Hardman, which is spelled H4RDMAN. James, you do a ton of great work with stats and stuff for, I think, all MLR fans. Truly appreciate what you do, but where can everybody find all these amazing stats that you pulled throughout this episode?
So yeah, it's MLR Stats on Instagram, and I use my personal Twitter for that. So that's at Jamdelay, JAMDELAY. Ultimately,
thanks for joining us. There's another exciting episode covering Major League Rugby, all the Canadian players, and of course the Toronto Arrows. Hopefully, all the coaches keep their hands to themselves this week, and we'll be back next week for another great episode. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching, and see you next time.